So I gotta admit, coming off of last week's episode of the Do-Over Damsel, walking into the latest one, episode 7, this wasn't what I was expecting. So last week we got a haunted weapon of a bride to be, Jill and Hades collectively working together, saving the day, fighting, kicking ass, taking names. Hell, the people, the general folk in the town square, knowing that he is protecting them and not this scumbag stealing women and doing God knows what. It's looking pretty hopeful, all things considered. So, a casual stroll with the dragons turning into Uncle jumping our bitch ass, throwing a coup, and them forced to play Farming Simulator was not on my bingo card. I'm not gonna say it's the hardest show to predict. There's definitely harder shows to predict, both this season and throughout the year. But I gotta admit, Do-Over Damsel throw me for a loop because hell if I know where we go from here. All I know is someone who had a very bad fate sister who ends up taking her life in the original timeline is now offering a hand saying, hey girl, you're hired. So your guess is as good as mine. Now, of course, a full live reactions to all these episodes over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought over there exclusively. So, did watch last week's episode, very, very good. Just sometimes I get busy, and we like to double it up. And honestly, it's very hard to say both where we're going from here and also what I want to see. Because you really could have used, in a lot of cases, just with a little extra couple moments. Episode 6 could be a season finale for a lot of these shows. So walking into this, obviously they gotta do something, gotta keep the stakes going. Of course, even if maybe some common folk are now a little more okay with our boy Hades, at the same time, he's not a love person. I mean, there's this moment around the midway point of episode 7 where they're talking about who they can trust at this point. Like, where can they go that they might be safe now that shit's hitting the fan. And the one place they might be able to go to pretty much is under the assumption that, our boy's curse killed the prince. Probably not, but still, the idea that what is supposed to be a neutral ally that really wouldn't take a side one way or the other, yeah, they probably would have shot you on sight. So they don't got a lot to do. And they decide to say, you know what, we're gonna stay here. I mean, our magic's sealed, we can't do anything anyway. And what do? For a month, they literally play Stardew Valley. They raise crops. The timeline is a little sus, I ain't gonna lie, because they have fresh, food, fruits, vegetables, and whatnot. Looks like it was snowing, and then a month later they have crops. So even if we go under the assumption that they got there at the end of winter, how the hell did they grow all that food in the span of a month? The timeline ain't timelining, but hey, I guess when we got flying dragons, time is just it's just kind of there. We don't really go past that. It was a pretty silly, the latest episode was pretty silly, and in comparison to last week, which was a lot more intense and blood-filled, I mean, people being stabbed, we kicking ass, taking names, basically meteors dropping down from the sky. It was a pretty intense episode last week, and this episode is anything but. Granted, the beginning and end of the episode is a little intense. I mean, we pretty much have the sister pretty much on her knees. She's going to be a prisoner of war, and then by the end of the episode, we see she ends up taking her life, basically feeling like she's a failure of a sibling, and to forgive her, more or less. So, it's interesting having this kind of do-over. I mean, it's in the title, The Do-Over Damsel, and the idea that she immediately takes her hand, almost like, one, this will be good, but two, we're going to make sure she doesn't suffer a similar fate like she did in the original timeline. So, the interesting thing that we end up doing is that she ends up going and she's like, hey, I'm going to go get a job or something because I'm probably not wanted. They probably don't got a poster on me. And immediately there's a dragon attack. And I bought into 100%. I mean, the dragon came down, landed on the town fountain, and it looked like it was going to do some crazy shit. And just imagine putting yourself in this guard's shoes this night. A little girl tackles you to what seems to be safety. Now, let's just say this dude weighs 180 pounds. His armor's probably 80 pounds too. This 10-year-old girl somehow has the strength of She-Hulk and saves him. On top of that, is getting, there's this dude who probably looks like in his 20s being master, commander, lord, servant. What are we, imagine just being in that situation for a brief moment, being why is a 10-year-old girl that strong And why is a 10-year-old girl commanding this 20-year-old? But damn if she ain't packing a mean punch, because she did cut the dragon. For not being able to pierce the scale, she immediately knew where to go to. And honestly, the fact that you just immediately get hired after that, like, stumbling into a job interview you had no idea you were interviewing for and just casually getting management position is what it felt like, and it was kind of funny. And just the immediate, like, hey, no questions asked, you're hired. Damn good demonstration, because I bought into that as a dragon attack. And, you know, in general, the dragons look pretty damn good. Like, I'm not going to say the show's always animated or always moving. Like, they do take shortcuts, but I appreciate that at a static level, the dragons look interesting. And for the most part, they do have, you know, some old school ways of animating techniques, you know, moving backgrounds to make it look like they're more moving than they actually are and stuff. But I think with the art direction they're going for, it works out in its favor. The thing is that it almost feels like we're getting 2 seasons in one. Not in the way that it's rushed, but it's like just the way the author, I guess, wrote the story. Episode 6 feels like the end of a book, you know what I mean? Like the end of a season. And now we're getting into the next batch. Uncle immediately jumped us and has a sword that if you get cut, your magic is sealed. And what's cool about it is that as soon as she got cut like shoulder area-ish in that area. And with our boy, he got slashed in the back. It doesn't just immediately flip a switch and you no longer have it. Like, she was still floating for a good 3 to 5 seconds before then it initially did it. May not seem like much, but, you know, often with these types of, you know, ideas and stories, I notice it's just like an immediate, like, oh, they're paralyzed, or oh, they're dead, or whatever. But this, like, it actually took, like, if you were to get paralysis applied to you, you're gonna slowly stop moving. You're not just gonna immediately tense up, right? And that's kind of how they directed it when it came to the sealing of the magic. And, you know, I get why they're doing it. At the end of the day, having both Jill and Hades' magic sealed in one sword, like, eventually it's gonna blow. Like, and when it blows, obviously they'll get their magic back, and, you know, they'll understand what's going on. But at the same time, yeah, sitting around in a shack for a month straight with these guys doesn't sound like the most pleasant of ideas, but 3 of them seemingly enjoyed it, and props to them. Though, if you watch after the credits, there's like one of those cute little gags. Hades ends up giving a stuffed animal to Jill to replace the one that I guess got destroyed by robbers. They framed it a little sus because it kind of looks like he ripped the dick off of Rav. What probably that was implying was that we took fur or scales to make the coat, but still, it was a little susly directed is all I'm saying. Let me know what you thought of the past couple of episodes. Last week, we kick ass and take names, and it was very enjoyable, wonderfully produced too, with this episode just sideswiping us and probably not seeing it coming, to be honest. But your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Jacob Darkfire, Min Young, June96, Miguel Frances, Dark Lord Dashi, Kim Andre Olsen, Dreadseed, and we also have Shadow868. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.